We wanted to start the segment off honoring the greats. We played some Shaba and we played some Patra. So that would be one of the kings and queens of dancehall, right? So I don't hear y'all because you know why.
I'm crying.
Yeah. But
I was starting you off, bro. You didn't introduce nobody. But go ahead.
So I still don't hear me in the headphones. These headphones are broke though. So I got King here from Antigua, and I got Jamaica here from Allison in Wonderland. That's Allison and that's King.
All right.
And we got Rob Kenner in the building. Round of applause for Rob Kenner.
Much respect. Give thanks, everybody.
All right, so we started off the show. I explained to them how we met the 2 times at the dinners with Chanel.
Shout out to the whole Legion movement, Chanel, putting good people together, and things like this happen.
Yeah. So the second time that we was at the Grill Village, which is a Caribbean restaurant that I spent a lot of my career in with my man Big Said, you had reached out and you was like, yo, tell me a little bit more about what you do. And that was like a follow-up from the first time that we talked, because I did a whole clip and I released a video about you explaining about the artist development or something. We were talking about something at that first dinner.
I think it was why rap didn't have #1 hits at the time.
Yeah, that's what it was, exactly. So then I spoke to my man Dave, and Dave is a writer. He used to write for different magazines, and he speaks very highly of you. He's in the chat right now.
Oh, cool.
And then he gave me your whole rundown, and he starts sending me all of these pictures and bios and videos. Like, Dave is on point. So I was like, all right, yeah, we're gonna get Rob up. And now you're here. So Rob Kenner's on the show.
Love is love. Much respect.
And everybody wants to know how you know so much about Caribbean music.
About dancehall.
Yeah, dancehall.
Yeah, I mean, I was just sort of drawn to it is all I can say. I heard the first like reggae music was like Harder They Come and all that. I always loved that stuff. And then 85, I went to Sunsplash in Mo Bay, and that was the jump off. I heard Super Cat and Tiger and Half Pint. And then the bugged out thing, I went to the record shop in Montego Bay trying to buy these records. And
Not Montego Bay.
All they had in the record shop was Kenny Rogers albums. Not a lie. It was straight country and western, but they had the mixtape behind the counter, and I got my fix of dancehall, and I got obsessed with that from 85 forward. Came to New York 87, worked at Irie Records in the East Village. If people remember the dances in Tompkins Square Park, the dreads in Ukrainian Center, you know, people like Johnny Wonder, Bobby Condors, myself, Papa Kojo, Keom Hi-Fi, rest in peace, Seaborn. A lot of, you know, musical vibes coming out of the East Village at that time. So BDP used to pass through, Tree, rest in peace, ICU, the whole, you know, hip hop and dancehall thing was organically connected. At that time, there's no separation in New York, especially. So, yeah. And then when Vibe came around, I, you know, gravitated to that to tell those stories. Wrote a story about Super Cat in '92.
So did you go into Vibe as just on the Caribbean side, or you was a writer?
I wrote a story for the first issue, for the test issue with Tretch on the cover. That was out.
What year was that?
'92. It came out. So that was when the Don Dada album just dropped on Columbia Records, and Wild Apache was running New York. That was like a moment with Super Cat and Biggie. Super Cat kind of putting Biggie on to an extent, and Puffy, where he was situated in the game at that time.
Yeah.
And making records with Criss Cross, and, you know, he was doing it. So that was how I got on it by that story.
Yeah, I do remember. Weren't they on the, what was that? The Dolly My Baby remix?
Yes,
right? Yeah.
that is right. And Puff produced it and has a verse on it.
Yes.
And Third Eye.
Yes.
But mostly people remember the Biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but dancehall and hip hop, you know, to me is a real interesting story because we just had Hip Hop 50, right?
Yes.
Shout out Cool Herc, the whole South Bronx. That's a Jamaican family playing a sound system in a building in the Bronx, but it's a Jamaican. It's, you know, it's Herc's dad's set that he played. You know, that was his culture from Jamaica. So it's a continuation of a sound system culture that's been going on for a long time. If people went to that big clash in Amazura, not even a clash, the Irish and Chin, you know, sound system showcase that just took place, Mighty Crown had their last dance, and it was, you know, a continuation of that, you know, Sky Juice and Stone Love, Metro Media, you know, these sound systems, Cox and Dodd, Duke Reed, they built a culture that became other things around the world, you know, as it spread. But so I like to tell those kind of stories, and I love that kind of music. So, you know.
So which music you introduced to first? Was it hip hop or was it dancehall?
I was more into dancehall first. Okay. I was listening to hip hop and liked it with all other music, but I wasn't like invested like that, you know. But yeah, I mean, but in New York, like I said, it was not separated in the 80s.
Right.
The parties were, you know, you had Shinehead, you know, De La and the Native Tongues had their little reggae bounds, Tribe Called Quest, Latifah,
everybody was together,
blended. So the genre apartheid thing kind of kicked in more as the industry took over, but culturally everything is kind of, you know,
the same subculture.
Yeah, exactly. And now it is pop culture. You know, it's not even a subculture, subwoofer, but no subculture.
Now it's everybody.
Yeah,
everybody's in tune.
Yeah, but so BoomShots was the column and vibe that I wrote.
Right, that's what they was asking me. I said, "Don't ask me, ask him when he did."
93, we started BoomShots, and you know that was a page in the back of Vibe. We made sure reggae was in every issue. We did like the cover with Sean Paul when the Dutty Rock thing was going crazy. So we've been repping dancehall, you know, on a par with other music.
Okay.
No separation, no second class, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, so in this interview, obviously, Rob has done so much, and I've heard so much of the backstories, and I've heard, you know, especially when PK Chanel like runs it down, she runs down this whole list of things. So, you know, it's hard to try to squeeze that all into a live interview. But I want to talk a little bit about the Nipsey, because that's what we kind of trauma bonded on when we first met, because I was telling the story of how I met Nipsey in, I think, 06 or 07. He came to the studio when he had Hustle in the House out, and when we was in the Bronx with DJ SNS, and Ty Boogie was there, Dallas Green, and that was on Sirius Radio when I was producing that show. And then you was talking about the documentary that you did, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Maybe he needs to see the footage that I did. You know, maybe if you want to add it to something else in the future, or you know, it's available. So, tell us a little bit about how that project came about.
So, in 17 years at Vibe magazine, I met a lot of brilliant people. I had the chance to do, you know, most of the covers that you remember of Vibe. I worked on them. So Nipsey was an artist who came in relatively late. The office is right down here on Wall Street, actually. I think it was 100 Wall Street. This was in 09, right before Vibe print sort of ended. You know, it was like during the financial meltdown, Vibe went out. You know, that's another story. But Nip was one of the last artists that came up to the office to play music before it. And honestly, I think Nipsey had a better digital strategy than Vibe at the time. You know, he was on, he was on the way up. But it, you know, everybody that was there that day remembers this young man who came in the conference room to play his mixtape, just immaculate braids, and the way he was attired and his energy is very impressive before he even plays you his work. And, you know, I'd never heard of Nipsey Hussle, but I remembered him after that listening. And, you know, afterwards I just said, you know, keep doing what you're doing. We're going to try and shine a light in the magazine. He got that one page in Vibe, and, you know, that was his goal, and he accomplished it like a lot of his other goals that he set in life. So, yeah. And over the years, stayed tapped in, you know, at Complex. I was a music editor when the Crenshaw thing was happening. So we connected again at Mass Appeal when Victory Lap came out. Had a great conversation the first day he was in New York, like a few days after the album dropped. And this is like your SNS moment was probably around the same time as the Vibe visit. But then, you know, I just stayed.
He probably was on a run, the whole media run that time.
Exactly, so in New York, moving around, you know.
Because it's not like he was here every week.
Steve Lobel and, you know, the whole squad. So, you know, Johnny Shipes. Like a lot of,
I think Copa was the one that was running around that brought him to the studio. Copa, and he put it on his YouTube Copa TV, so that's how I remember that.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, then, you know, as you know, I wrote a book called The Marathon Don't Stop, which was begun right after that Victory Lap conversation, you know, because there were so many gems.
So, all right. So beyond that, how did it affect you when he was murdered? Like, let's talk about that before you get to the writing the book, because that you was already building a relationship with
exactly.
him. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating. Nobody who cares about human beings was not devastated that day. That was like a blow to the whole human race.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I felt
forget about hip hop fans and forget about neighborhoods or cities. You know, it was just like an epic, painful thing, and you know, it's nothing compared to his family, his you know, loved ones. But as a journalist, I definitely admired his movement and learned things from talking to him that had nothing to do with doing an interview. And, you know, I feel very blessed to have had those moments where we cross paths, you know, in my life. And I felt it was important to explain what I saw as, you know, his thoughts and his ideas and what he wanted to share. He always said, like, I'm not outside handing out bags of money, but the game is free. And he just wants to pass it on to people that will be motivated and execute, you know, this marathon vision. It's just a way of motivating yourself. It's a way of sort of rising to the challenge every day. So that's something I learned from conversations with Nipsey Hussle. And, you know, the book, The Marathon Don't Stop, was a blessing. It was hard to write after his passing. You know, during the time I was working on it, he passed away. But, you know, the book is still being read and, you know, sharing people.
Where can they find it at? Where can people pick it up at?
It's
Amazon?
Yeah, it's all over. You know, there's audio book and, you know, all the usual platforms. But yeah, it was a New York Times bestseller. A lot of people supported the book. I think it was a breakthrough just for hip hop to be represented at that level. And, you know. Yeah.
I'm being in the media, the independent media, and being involved with mainstream media throughout my career. A lot of when college radio, my man Spliff, he would bring me into Sony. I remember interviewing Graf and Mano and all of these guys when they was on Sony, like early in their career, and they would feed them to me because I was an independent network. But then they would invite me to college events where they had college radio, and they would just map me in that with them. And so I came up just being a part of it. So I never felt separated, but it's always interesting when you see, you know, Vibe and whatever other magazines, you know, and all of those, how much they contribute to the culture, and then how they just, you know, things just stop because it's something, the medium transcends to blogs, I guess it went to.
Yeah.
But those magazines was major for us. Like
it was very influential. I still have Vibe magazine, like certain covers, like certain editions, like I kept them.
Me too.
And I would decorate like my college dorm room with them. Like if it was Ashanti on the cover, if it was Mace on the cover, you know, it's just certain people that I kept those magazines, and I still have them.
Little Kim, Missy, Mary. Yeah, definitely. Those are classic covers that have influenced us and kept us. Excuse me. They've some of those have actually transcended through time, and this is why sometimes people are stuck in a certain year of music, because it brings you back to a happy place, and you want to stay. Yes, you definitely want to stay there because it reminds you of your first boyfriend or prom, or, you know, for some, you know, that's the song that they got proposed to, or you know, or the family reunion or barbecue. So it's just one of those things where you want to stay. I had a question about the book. Sure. You did mention that it happened. You were in the process of writing it during his death. So I wanted to know, and you know, my condolences, because you were a part of it and you're basically a part of his family at this point.
Well, that's a big statement, but thank you.
You knew him, you broke bread with him, you were able to write about him, is what I'm saying. Now, how did that affect the book and the content that you were putting into the book?
That's a good question. I tried to not have it change much because it wasn't a book about a, you know, tragic murder mystery or something like that. It was a book about, it is a book about ideas and inspiration and, like, you know, the example of like executing at a high level, at a high vibration to help, you know, your whole community and just overcoming all obstacles in your path. And that was what I got from conversations. Like, I mean, I'm a writer, I'm not a musician, but talking to Nipsey about the creative economy and how the rules of the game were not invented by creators. They were invented by money people that wanted to get into that transaction between the audience and the artist, because the artist has to create almost. It's like in you. Right. The audience has to receive that art. They live on it. And the business was invented to kind of like get in between that,
be the middleman,
spiritual connection. Yeah. And so literally F the middleman was Nip's one of his whole mottos, one of his mantras, you know, because, you know, he peeped the whole learnings of how the hip hop game and music industry has been constructed. And he hacked the system to learn how to extract the most, you know, benefits from his creativity. And, you know, that's why his family is, you know, taken care of in that sense, because, you know, he owned all the rights to his raps. He was able to set a foundation, trust funds, you know, businesses, multiple businesses that are thriving to this day. The Marathon Clothing was just at Complex Con this couple of weeks ago, you know, for the first time. Like, that business is growing, and it's amazing to see what Black Sam and, you know, the whole family have been able to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of meeting Nipsey Hussle before, and you described him accurately. Like, if he does have that energy. When I met him, I had only heard his name, but I didn't listen to his music. Instantly after I met him, I immersed myself in his music. And my first post was just like, listen, on February 16th, 2018, go buy this album, stream this album. Like, he really was a teacher. He really did have like this charismatic energy. It was something about him. It just felt magical. It felt special.
Yeah.
That I was on a video shoot for hours with him and Swiss Beats for I think the song was called "Been Down" for the Victory Lap album.
Right, and the rollout to the album.
And it was crazy. Like, I was shocked. Like, he spoke to me first. I didn't interact with him first, and I was like, you know, I did a double take. Like, wait a minute, you talking to me? And then, you know, but I saw him do that, like giving out the knowledge, speaking to everybody, just trying to. If you were willing to listen, he was willing to teach you and let you in on all types of game, basically. And I was
That's really
like,
true. He said that when he was coming up, that's all he wanted was for older people, the OGs, to share the game with him, not the secrets, but just give us the game. Because if you don't, to him, it was almost a form of hating. Like,
it is.
You know, if you're secure in your own work ethic, you know, may the best hustler win, you know?
Right.
Yeah. His energy was very, very, it was infectious almost. Like, you knew where he was. And when he stepped into a room, it was just like, he's here. I saw him perform at Summer Jam. I didn't know who he was. And you know, they have the sound stage right before the main performance. So he came out and they were like, "Oh, Nipsey Hussle." And I was like, "Who is this guy?" I was like, "I've been to California a few times. Let me stay and listen."
Yeah.
Because I was going to walk away. But then I heard him and I was like, I like him. I like him. And I started to listen to him, and it was just like, oh my God. My brother was like, "That's Nipsey Hussle. Oh my God." And I was like, I don't know who this is, but I like him. And then after that, it was a wrap.
Yeah.
When I first heard the Hustle in the House, I had the crisscross beat in the background, and I'm heavy on production because I'm a producer, and I was just like, yo, that song was amazing when I first heard him. And he just had the swag, and he sounded kind of like Snoop, like in his lingo, because he was from LA. Yep. And like, so when my first meeting of him, I was just like, oh, this song is gonna be all right. And this is way before he started like really promoting everything heavy. Like, this was his media run. But just when I watched that interview back, and I think about it, I'm like, oh, he was really dropping some jewels back then to be a young cat that was in the game, that was new in the game. So
yeah, and that record was actually made in New York, believe it or not. It sounds so West Coast, but it's like Crisscross was doing that G-Funk sound in Atlanta. Yeah. Right. Jermaine Dupri and them, I think, were really influenced by the Chronic sound when they made that Jump record. And then, you know, a Detroit producer flipped it, and Nip recorded it in New York City, and that's the record we have today.
Was that Detroit Red? Detroit
Yeah.
Red on the beat.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I remember that. I remember he said that. All right, so can we do this, Dottie? Can we get into the record that's on Jay's project with featuring Nipsey?
Jay Stone.
Jay Stone. Shout out to Jay Stone. Jay Stone should be up next. So we want to start warming up the seat for him.
That's it. Yeah, he's moving around the city. Big listening last night at Platinum Sound Studios. The new tape.
See, that's the invite I didn't get. I got
shit.
today, but I definitely didn't know about that. Oh, I'm lying. I was in Canada, so you wouldn't have even told me anyway.
You were
I'm lying.
like
See, look
in
at me
the
about
ice and
the
snow.
look at me. Look, yeah, ice and snow was crazy too. It definitely was going down up there.
Oh my God. No, but last night was crazy also. The Definition of Success is the new project. This is the 4th episode of a series that started in 2019. Definition of Loyalty, a concept that Stone posted the text message with Nip that came up with the idea of the whole series. Definition of loyalty, definition of
So it's like based
success.
off conversations and things that they were having.
Yeah, it was an idea for a series of projects that was about how basically the ethics and the codes that Stone conducted himself by, and really as a close, I mean, Nip and Stone were making like homemade recordings from very young, before any of the industry shit, and so they're
stuff.
Pardon me.
We don't want to curse.
My bad.
We
Yeah.
don't want the FCC coming down.
My
I know you could pay it, but you know,
violation.
I don't want you to say it's Christmas is coming up. We don't need you to pay an unnecessary fine.
Not at all. But no, honestly, it's going to be a treat to hear this new project, and
it's gonna stay in rotation up here. Once we give it a good listen to, me and Thotty would definitely sit with it after if we go off the air, and while we setting up this new piece of equipment, we'll play it loud in the studio.
Nice.
But yeah, let's get into it, Thotty. And Party 101.9, you already know what it is. We got Rob Kenner in the building, and we will be back.
The most influential urban radio talk show live from the BXNY.
Yep. That was new Jay Stone from the west,
Montana,
from the west side to the left side, the best side, where the rest reside. We got Rob Kenner in the building. Listen, man, I love when I hear new music, especially from West Coast, because for some reason back in the days they thought we wasn't rocking with them. I mean, they don't know that we was heavy on the Chronic, heavy on the Snoop album, heavy on the Nip, heavy on the Too Short, like all that we was heavy on. Like
Alcoholics,
right? They assume way wrong about New York in particular. I don't know what Atlanta and all them was doing, but you just said that they was just using some of the sounds Jermaine Dupri and them was using.
Yeah, it was a worldwide movement at that time. 92, like Dre and the Chronic, like really put hardcore rap on MTV. Nobody was really able to do that before. There was some records, obviously, Tone Loc and Wild Thing and MC Hammer, and there were records that broke through, but like the Chronic sounded like the streets of LA, and that was like, you remember MWA didn't get any radio play. Right. That was like in the clubs and mixtape.
Right.
But Dre did it, and Snoop and them, it changed the face of the culture. And that was 92 was also when Vibe came out. Snoop was our first cover after we got the green light. We did the Tretch in 92. 93 was Snoop. We did, first issue of Vibe magazine.
That was Snoop's year too, 93.
Yeah.
That was my
Jay
first
Gray.
favorite.
What up, Jay Gray? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that Snoop was like my first favorite rapper.
100%.
Yeah.
Your first favorite
My
rapper?
First favorite
not
rapper.
Slick Rick or not Dougie Fresh or not one of them?
Remember, I'm young. Don't get me wrong.
Slick Rick was mine. I'm old.
I'm old.
Listen, I had to do more of a, like go back and listen to stuff type of thing. But like when I was, little, Snoop was like my first introduction to rap. My father used to play it, and he let me listen to it and rap all the curses and
rap all the curses. Your father was a real one.
So, yeah.
She's like, just go for it, baby girl. I ain't gonna tell your mama.
Yeah, Slick Rick was mine, definitely.
Is your mama listening now? What she feel?
She is listening, but she know that's like my musical guy.
You don't have a potty mouth either, so we can't say you was negatively influenced by the music. Yo, I love the cards when you Jamaican though, so all y'all do is curse.
Remember
that's
that
right.
I had cards myself that I didn't bring with me. This is cool.
Tell me, Rob. Tell me what's some of your favorite parts of hip hop culture, the whole culture in itself. Not so much what you've been influenced, what was you able to influence, but the things that you still get up for, I would say, about hip hop?
Well,
Because you've been doing it for a very long time.
We
right?
talked about the 80s in New York because that was just a whole, BDP, Red Alert. That
Shout out to Red
movement.
Alert. He just had a birthday party yesterday.
Yeah,
so
I
it's
mean,
crazy.
that was, when I first was living in the city, that's what was going on. I was blessed to be through the reggae world, accessing all of that real stuff that was happening in New York. So Slick Rick, Heavy D, let's not forget, Grand Poobah, Pete Rock, the West Indian, Biggie Smalls, the West Indian culture and hip hop was strong, and remained strong. Chub Rock, could go on and on. Special Ed, the New York sound was influenced by that. But then moving forward, at Vibe, we were part of the Bad Boy era. Puff's going through his things right now, but I mean, it's the music is like a part of the whole century of music. You can't get around that. And then you had like the whole Neptunes movement, Timbaland, so many great creative forces, making music. And I mean, I'm really loving the whole TDE wave. Like we kind of jumped on that early from, when I was at Complex. We did
so you was at All right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's hold on. Let's go back.
At
So
Complex and Mass Appeal.
how many different publications and networks did you work and write for? Because you
After Vibe, I was at Vibe from day one to the last day. They marched us out the building. I was at Vibe till the
you did
wheels
the whole
fell off.
duration, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't leave or you didn't get fired.
No, 2009
it
the magazine
dissolved.
stopped publishing.
Okay.
Actually, there was a reboot up in Harlem. They did a different, wave, and I was part of that for a little while. But I was also by that time doing things with BET. I was like the digital person for the BET Awards in 2011, and then became music editor of Complex. And then we did
It's a wealth of knowledge. See, Allison, you would learn something from a guy like this, right? this is how you do it. All right, what else now?
No, we did the first cover on A$AP Rocky, The Weeknd. We did covers on Rihanna, Justin Bieber. It was a great moment at Vibe. I mean, at Complex. Complex was on the come up. Shout to Mark Echo and NCB and the
Mark
team
Echo.
over there.
Love that
Yeah.
clothing
So
brand.
basically, you were the foundation for both companies.
Well, we were definitely I was blessed to have the music thing at Complex going, which there was always a music cover. They were doing print and digital, by the way. Complex had a very smart and still has a smart digital strategy, but there was always a magazine attached wherever I actually was on staff. So Vibe, Complex, and Mass Appeal, I was editing the magazine as well as doing digital and video content. But Complex was on a real come up then, and we did the Good Kid, Mad City cover with Kendrick Lamar when he was really just still underground. Like, people remember Section 80 and, that time, but he wasn't the K-Dot that we know now. Like, so it was really cool seeing him. He shot a video in the offices of Complex before Vashti directed a video that was over there at one point. That was how, things were moving at that time. But we did a lot of cool stuff, and it continues to this day. We're here now waiting on Jay Stone. I think he said he's in traffic, so we're hoping that he can beat rush hour and make it here. But
if you're on Party 101.9 and you hear us get to the point where we're not on anymore, stay tuned because the interview is still going to happen, and it will be posted on the Matrix Studios this week. If you're into it, even if you're not, just go there and watch it. We got some stuff there.
Have you listened to this group Coast Contra? Have you heard them?
Yes, I most of them online. I haven't pulled up a project and just listened to it.
I think they're doing some great music.
We got a knock on the door.
All right. Cooley Ranks in the building.
Cooley Ranks,
that's the brethren.
Yes. All right, so he found the room, so we're getting closer.
You best believe. Oh, I got another thing to highlight, if I may. This Friday, December 1st, a very important dancehall project is coming out on Def Jam Records. Artist by the name of Massacre, the One Side Genocide movement, is taking it to another level. This is the follow-up to the classic.
Now you got two new friends. They're gonna be all on your IG now, trying to see what's going on.
Massacre is the lyrical miracle in dancehall right now. Like, I would compare him to a Kendrick Lamar within dancehall. Yeah, wow. He's doing next level songwriting, production, everything, and it's his team. And yeah, so BoomShots, my media company, we did a thing with Massacre that's gonna start to come out. You're gonna see it.
So BoomShots started with Vibe, and now that turned into your
BoomShots
brand?
Media LLC is
LLC
my
is your-
own.
that was always
situation.
before.
Yeah, well, it grew out of the column at Vibe called BoomShots.
Right,
And we
right.
got the BoomShots TV on YouTube, and you know, a lot of dope interviews. Shout out to Reshma B, the reggae girl about town. She's done some classic interviews on the platform, and yeah, so you can definitely follow BoomShots and know what's going on in dancehall and reggae. We're about to take the Welcome to Jamrock Reggae cruise this weekend, pushing out from Miami to
King is going to. She's gonna get off at Antigua though.
Excuse me.
She'll be there. She's gonna be like, yo,
Are
hold
we
on,
taking
stop
a-
over here.
Are we taking a detour? Well, we'll see if Junior gonna want to pull up to Antigua real quick. But I think the plan is to go Miami to Jamaica and back. So
Allison's. She's gonna be on the back of the boat.
Sean Paul, Beanie Man,
Sorry.
Stephen Marley. It's
Hold
gonna
around.
be crazy. So
dope.
yeah, dancehall continues to grow, and Massacre is right at the forefront of that. So that album, Generation of Kings, drops on Friday. Definitely check that out.
So, with everything that's been said, what is something that you would want to leave with the people on this content that we're producing right now that will be circulating? What is something obviously about the Nip, about the Vibe, about the Complex, about everything you did? What about your Boom TV LLC?
BoomShots, yeah.
BoomShots, Boom TV. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
BoomShots LLC, BoomShots TV LLC. What's some things that you want people to know what's coming up in the future, 2024 and beyond?
Well, the very next thing you should be seeing the trailer for a Massacre documentary that BoomShots produced. That's going to be coming out in 2024. You're going to see it on the film festival circuit and whatnot, but we're going to drop the trailer around the time that the album drops. So keep an eye out for that. Produced by me, directed by Reshma B. It's going to be sick.
All right, so I know my guy Dave Lopez is on. D Lopez is on the line. D, if you want to call in, the phone line is open. If you have a question for the good brother Rob, because I know you gave me a lot of insight, and I know you had your own question. So we got another 8 minutes here with him. So just if you want to call up, the number 718-708-5890, and we'll put you through. We'll see what we could do with that, Sir Dave. But anything else from the Caribbean ladies, the Caribbean couple over here?
No,
The dance hall queens.
No, he
That's
got
my
me
favorite
excited
movie.
with
Don't
the
play.
whole
I love that movie.
with the whole Massacre thing.
What's
I-
your favorite Massacre record?
I love the entire 438 album from start to finish.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. I don't even know. I like King in the Earth,
Yep.
and I like Every Black Man a King.
Next King. So this is the next
So,
King
yeah.
part of the story with the Generation of Kings.
Why you're right, because your name
Yeah.
is King. That's why you jacking all of this King stuff.
Listen,
Ain't nothing
no.
wrong. That's some royal vibration. I feel that. But yeah, Massacre is so underrated to me. Like, his fans are very loyal, but he's not been that household name yet. But I think this album is going to show. And it's on Def Jam, which is a big deal for the culture.
Definitely.
First time that he's done a major label project 2 years after his self-produced thing took the place by storm. So it's a good look.
I like his storytelling too. The storytelling is
Yeah, a lot of inspiration, a lot of, motivation. Not to bring up Nip all the time, but, I feel that energy from Massacre too. He's sharing his pitfalls along the way and how he overcame them. And, it's not like everything is so perfect, but he kind of tells you how he got through.
right.
So, all right, let's talk a little bit about any trials and tribulations that you might have went through, going through that, like something that you remember, like, yo, I had to get through that, like, to get to this point, like something was trying to stop you or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got marched out of the building at Vibe by the guards from the bank. They took over their bank loan, and it was like, put down your pencils, and
Oh, they came in like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah, it
with
was
helmets
like,
and
it was
bats.
it was the end of the line, man. We were working on a hot issue too. It was like MJ had just passed away.
So they're not gonna do a documentary about the Vibe.
That's a
They
good
should.
one.
That would be really good.
You may have touched on something that's in the pipeline, but no, it's not. I'll tell you this: 2009, when we had to walk away, we had a Kobe and Lil Wayne cover shot ready to go, and then MJ passed away,
Mm.
and we're Quincy's magazine. So what are we gonna do? So we had to
Yeah.
change the cover. We're in the midst of a complete revamp. I was like planning out the tribute to Michael Jackson, and then they marched in. They're like, unplug, you know.
Wow.
And so that lesson that I learned was I didn't know nothing about him. Like I was blessed to work there. The things I learned, the people I met could never replace. But, you know, I realized it was like the floor fell out from beneath my feet because, you know, I thought I would work at Vibe forever. I loved working there. It was a great cultural moment.
We thought we would be reading Vibe magazines and being a part of that.
Well, the .com is still going. It's under new management, and shout out to Daytwan keeping it thorough.
Oh,
and
shout out to
everything.
Daytona. That's another good brother.
Absolutely, you know. But that print era was monumental, as you mentioned, and so yeah, I learned that you had to start to, you know, build your own platform, and that's why BoomShots came into play. And you know, you don't have to pitch an idea to yourself. You know, it's important. You put it out. You know. And that's
important. Bet on yourself then, right?
Yeah,
right.
exactly. You know, but I'm still working with other outlets, freelance a little bit for GQ or whoever wants to, you know.
So all right, so I want you to give my guy Dave Lopez some inspiration because he worked for Double XL and a couple other magazines too. And
was this in the YN era, Dave, or what? Or Vanessa Satin?
He's gonna answer, and while he's answering, and so we keep telling him, me and my guy Carlito was telling him the other day. Carlito read a story that he just went on the Rock the Bells boat ride, and he wrote a story about it, and he put it on his Medium page, and then I took it off his Medium page and put it on the Matrix Studios and posted it. And my man Carlito read it and was like, "Yo, I felt like I was there. Like you do a good job writing." And my man Dave always want to talk about, yo, you know, I missed my time. I could have did this. Like, I'm like, Dave, your time is still now. Like
today is your time,
right? Yeah. I think he needs to hear it from you.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
No, I mean, we're manifesting something that we just talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's a new day in almost December 2023.
Mm-hmm.
My brethren, Cooley Ranks over here, reissuing the Pilfers classic album 25 years later.
We need to let him sit down. I was about to give him my seat too.
Cooley Ranks, pass through real quick before we go off the air. This is a